Hello, I'm Anna Kennedy. My first novel is Plaiting. Plaiting is the act of braiding your hair, and it's the first of a trilogy about a young Catholic girl called Mary Bowen. Mary is a clever, funny, and feisty 15-year-old convent schoolgirl living in London in 1966. Her father supports her vision for a career as a gene scientist, which conflicts with her mother's vision of a brilliant marriage. Encouraged by her indulgent father, Mary challenges the received wisdom of the church, constructs her own set of values, and gets into all sorts of scrapes along the way. For her, the strands of faith, ambition, love, and sex are not yet fully plaited. I'm going to read you a piece from chapter 14. It's a Sunday morning, and on the previous day, Mary has been on her first date with Nick Hill, who's the son of a diplomat, and they went to the film to see Spartacus. After church, Mary went to her father's study to sit with him. He was ensconced in one of the leather chairs, reading The Observer. He asked her about Spartacus. I suppose it was very dramatic, a truly epic tale. I guess it was, replied Mary, blushing at the recollection of Nick's hands on her body. Oddly, she thought, it feels more pleasurable to think about it now than to experience it at the time. But then Nick's inexperienced, like me, and he is really nice. So you and Nick had a good time? He turned the page of the paper, not looking at her. Yes, she paused for a moment. I like spending time with him. We had fun on Thursday. We went boating on the lake. Your mother mentioned it. She seems to have given him her stamp of approval. This morning she was in raptures about his father. Mary forgot her purpose for the moment and looked closely at her dad. Did Mum tell you off for not being at the fete to help? Not exactly. He put the paper down and smiled at her. But I'll probably never hear the end of how gentlemanly Mr. Hill is and how well turned out. I shall have to smarten myself up. Mary looked at her father's grey-knitted waistcoat, his pipe sticking out of the pocket. His shirt collar was crumpled, although he always wore a tie, as now. His tweed jacket hung over the back of the chair. I wouldn't have you change anything, Dad. Why, if you did, it wouldn't be you. Maybe, but I don't want your mother finding other men attractive, do I? He laughed. Mum? Mary scoffed. The idea was preposterous. But then the image of Nick's dad, kissing her mother's hand, came back to her. You know, Dad, I don't really care for Mr. Hill. He was at the fete yesterday. He's a bit frightening, actually. Frightening? In what way? I don't know. He kind of looks at you funny, as if he was trying to control your thoughts. It's probably being a diplomat that does that. Anyway, your mother seems to think highly of him. She's been going on about him all morning. Shame she hasn't got more important things to think about. What do you mean, Mary? Nothing. It's just that Mum's so clever, but she doesn't get to use it. I mean, she doesn't have a job or anything. You'd better not let her hear you saying that. I'm sure she'd say that running the house and looking after us is exhausting. But she didn't ever work, did she? No, said her father slowly. She was young when we married, and she settled down into running the house. Somehow it never came up. I couldn't bear to spend my life like that. I'm sure you won't. Times have changed, Mary. None of your mother's friends went to work either. They didn't need to. In fact, when she was a girl at your school, if a lay teacher got married, she had to give up her job. But why? Because the church believed that teaching was a vocation. You couldn't do it, or be a nurse or anything like that, and be married. You'd be distracted from your vocation. How old-fashioned. But we have married teachers now. Mrs. Norris is married, and Mrs. Harper in Junior 1. Things have got a bit more liberal then. You should be pleased about that. He put his empty pipe between his teeth and returned to his paper. Mary went to lean on the windowsill. I suppose sex might distract you from your vocation. She tried to imagine her parents in a clinch when they were young. The idea made her shudder. After all, they can't be having sex at their age, can they? But Mrs. Norris and her husband, does he distract her from being a good teacher? I can't see how. Her cheeks felt hot all of a sudden. She pulled the net curtain aside and opened the window. A light breeze cooled her face.